'cause I know we can make it. Yes, we can make it.
Hey beautiful, welcome to Dr. Sarah's Café. This is your weekly refill where we take our time to savor the flavor of the week. This is a very special refill, so I'm so excited that you clicked to join us because this refill marks one full year of the weekly refill series. I'm going to be talking about upcoming changes and how I want to celebrate and mark this milestone at the end of the video. So for my core community who are just really interested and really invested in the direction of this series and the overall channel, stick around to the end. And for those of you who just came to fill your cup and then dip, I'm all for it. I'm just glad that you're here at all. So let's get right into the flavor of the week. It is resilience. Resilience. And I'm really feeling this one again personally, having completed a whole year of these refills. It has taken a lot of resilience and it will continue to take resilience to persist in the future, but also thinking about resilience in multiple layers. So there's mental resilience, mental stamina, emotional resilience is a big one, and also physical resilience. And so all the various forms of healing that a lot of my work is committed to involves all forms of resilience in different areas of life, whether it's resilience in academic work, professional work, resilience in maintaining a healthy relationship, resilience in healthcare practices, resilience in our habits and personal lifestyle goals, resilience in our emotional openness, our emotional of vulnerability, right? So there are a lot of things that require resilience. And just to be honest, to live another day as a human being requires some element or aspect of resilience, because life throws us curveballs, it gives us lemons, we have tower moments, we have difficulties, we suffer loss, we experience grief, heartbreak. It's all part of being human. And sometimes without cultivating and practicing and being focused on resilience, we can be tempted to just throw our hands up, to give up, to allow ourselves to be overcome and taken over by the waves of life. And yet there is reason to hope and to persist even through storms, even through droughts and other various forms of challenge that we might face as humans, okay? Now, the ingredients that make up this resilience flavor of the week, the oracle card from the Secrets of the Ancestors Oracle deck by Abiola Abrams. It was number 39 in Creature of Earth. This would be the Knight of Pentacles in a traditional tarot deck. The Creature of Earth is all about resilience, all about stamina, all about persisting, all about putting one foot in front of the other, taking one step at a time, and just staying the course. And this came out with the Three of Knives in the Hoodoo Tarot deck, which would be the Three of Swords in more traditional tarot deck. So the Three of Knives, the Three of Swords is all about heartache, loss, disappointment, grief, and healing those things. So when I saw those two cards come out together, I immediately thought of emotional resilience, persevering in the face of heartache. Persevering in the face of heartbreak, of loss, of disappointment, of something that did not live up to expectation, something that we are grieving in our lives, some painful experience, and yet we choose to wake up again tomorrow and continue to see what else there is to learn, to grow, to discover in this life. And even thinking about applying it to a very common scenario of emotional heartbreak in terms of romantic relationships, romantic situations, and having the courage to say, I'm willing to give love another try, one more try. I believe it was Maya Angelou, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, who said, always be willing to give love another try and always one more try. And the author of the Secrets of the Ancestors deck said having the strength and the courage to remain vulnerable, emotionally open, even through pain, even through heartache, is a big part of that energy. And so I see it as I've suffered a loss in the past, whether it be professional loss, a physical challenge, an emotional or relationship challenge, or a spiritual challenge, or loss, or trauma. and saying, I'm not going to let that make me cut my heart off to new experiences. I'm not going to let that fill me with so much fear and dread that I never go after a new opportunity, that I never take another chance on a new career path, or I never take another chance on new love, or I never take another chance to, run for a marathon or to run for office or invent a new product or a new gadget, a new piece of technology. Just because I've had failures in the past doesn't mean it's not worth this dream, this vision is not worth giving it another iteration, changing up some variables and seeing how we can move forward if I truly still have that dream in my heart. And sometimes we close our hearts off to the dream, not because the dream is no longer relevant, not because it's no longer valid, but simply because we're afraid to let ourselves dream. We're afraid to let ourselves even hope for the possibility of new love. We're afraid to even let ourselves hope for the possibility of healing, right? And the possibility of joy and peace and experiencing something that truly delights us and lights up our life with love, peace, and joy. Three of Swords, the Three of Knives in the Hoodoo Tarot deck specifically, has a depiction, and it'll be on the screen here. It has a depiction of a bottle tree. So there's a man with three knives stuck in him, and he's sitting at the base of a crepe myrtle tree, which has significance, right, in the Hoodoo tradition of being about like faithfulness and rejuvenation, which I love. It's beautiful, right? So that alone, right, the crepe myrtle tree being one where it says here, crepe myrtle tree represents rejuvenation and God's promise to the faithful. So remaining faithful, think about what that means, having faith. To have faith implies that there might not be strong evidence in front of us that this is going to work out. There might not be strong evidence in front of us that we have a chance to win, that we have a chance to overcome, that we have a chance to be free. Whatever that goal or that hope or that wish might be, faith is only required because it's not obvious or it's not a guaranteed outcome. And so faith is how we persist, the author writes, people who are determined to survive. People who are determined to survive. You're determined to survive despite how hard or difficult things might currently be. And so this message overall, just with these two cards, feels like an encouragement for people who are in that place, for people who maybe it's just one area of your life. Maybe it's just your career right now that's presenting a challenge and you're needing some motivation or encouragement or just a reminder to keep the faith that this is possible. For you, maybe it's your relationships or maybe your lack of relationships, right? And you're seeking connection, you're seeking community, you're seeking a romantic partner, a life partner, whatever that might be for you. For others of you, it could be family related, it could be health related, it could be spirituality related. But going back to the bottle tree, the idea was to capture any negative spirits and allow the sunlight to destroy them at dawn. So my question here is, what negative spirits in your life require the sunlight of dawn? And that could be a metaphor. It could be literal for some of you, right? But also it could definitely be a metaphor where negative spirit might be discouragement. It might be self-doubt. It might be fear. It might be anxiety. It might be worry of various kinds. It might be lack of faith. And so how can we expose those things to the light of dawn, aka metaphorically being love, compassion, grace, truth, right? Exposing a fear to the light of truth and saying, I fear this thing based on a projection, based on past wounding and past trauma. But when I allow myself to reconsider, is it actually true? Is this actually true? Then it helps me to untether from that fear that's based in a past trauma, right? And so this week, we're really being encouraged to lean into, as much as possible, emotional resilience, that mental resilience. And, you might prefer to call it faith, belief, even, I think is another good word, that strong belief that I am loved by a higher power, that I am protected and cared for by a higher power, by a higher authority, that there is a calling on my life, that I am here for a purpose, and that there's a spiritual team specifically designated to help me fulfill that purpose, right? As long as I am doing my part and showing up for my side of the equation. And then I'm also thinking about how resilience is built. Resilience is built in the same way that strength is built, that faith is built. It is precisely in tough times that we build resilience, faith, and strength. It is precisely in challenging times that resilience and faith and strength are built. We might not feel great in these moments, but they can be the seed, the root, the soil that nurtures, fertilizes, and establishes greater magic, strength, purpose, resilience, faith for us beyond what we have known before. And the astrology ingredients, I think, speak to that as well. And so one of the things that I'm going to talk about at the end of the video in terms of upcoming changes is that I want to do more broad strokes with the astrology. And so I won't go through the nitty gritty, but I will say that we have 3 major things happening this week that I think speak to courage in particular, that speak to confidence, and that speak to that spiritual warrior. And when I say spiritual warrior, I don't mean fighting something outside of ourselves. I mean staying true to a mission, right? I think of a spiritual warrior as in I have a mission in this lifetime, and I'm going to pursue that mission even when it gets hard. To me, that's what the spiritual warrior is all about. For example, if I have a mission to teach people, if I have a mission to inspire people with my words, then even when I get negative comments, even when no one watches my videos, or I get criticized, or even when I'm crunched for time and struggling myself in my own personal life, right? I am still going to pursue that mission in a way that feels aligned and authentic, sincere, and genuine, right? I'm not going to hide from the mission just because I'm afraid of judgment. I mean, I really want to sometimes, and sometimes I do, but ultimately, right, I'm going to work through that fear of judgment, that fear of like invisibility, that fear of becoming irrelevant, all the things that really make us afraid to take the leap. And sometimes your life mission is not always this like grandiose public stage kind of mission, a mission that is hyper local, a mission that is about the interpersonal relationships in your family, a mission that is about being the best friend that you can be to a circle of 5 people. It's not about like scale in other people's eyes. It's about the impact, and is it authentically aligned with your soul's true expression. Mercury moving into Aries, even though it's going to be retrograding. Venus just went retrograde yesterday. Mercury in Aries making a sextile to Pluto, which is the planet of power. Aries being a sign of the trailblazer, right? Aries is associated with springtime. It is the first sign of the zodiac, and so it is the trailblazer in that way. And it's Aries, therefore, is doing something that has never been done before, right? Aries is known for taking the leap of faith and saying, hey, this is new and I haven't tried it before, but I want it and I've got my sights on it. And so I'm going to trust and have faith, and I'm going to I'm going to set out on this mission. Aries energy is associated with warrior energy. Aries is like, win or lose, I'm in the game. Right? That's kind of like Aries energy. And Aries energy, I feel, is also win or lose, I'm in the game. And I intend to have a damn good time while I'm in the game, right? I'm going to give it my all. But then again, Pluto being the planet of power, making a sextile to Mercury in the sign of the warrior of Aries, it gives that warrior energy a deeper sense of purpose. To me, Pluto is a very, very deep planet, dealing with the subconscious and dealing with inner power, like personal power. And then we also have the sun in Pisces trining Mars in Cancer. And to me, Mars in Cancer also feels like spiritual warrior. Cancer cares a lot. Cancer as an archetype is a very, very caring, very nurturing, very heart-centered sign. It's a card of emotional depth and a lot of emotional substance. And so having Mars, the warrior planet, in that sign, I'm going to persevere. I'm going to cultivate resilience because I care. I care deeply about myself. And so I'm going to persevere in my life. I'm going to persist towards my dream because I love myself so much that I'm going to give my dreams a chance. I love myself so much that I'm going to give myself the self-care that I need. I'm going to be financially responsible in a way that will sustain my livelihood, right? I care so much about my family that I'm going to do the hard work on myself to show up in a way that's healthy and that has healthy boundaries. And I care so much about my community that I'm willing to put myself out there and share my gifts and use my gifts in a way that is pouring into my community, right? And so different parts of our lives, different aspects for all of us, but there's something, many things, and there's someone, many people that we care about and that we say it's worth buckling in and staying the course for this thing. Carry out this mission, even if I have to pause, even if I have to take a break, even if I have to retreat sometimes, even if I have to go back and circle the wagons and try a different strategy, a different approach, take a different route. I am committed to this mission, to this vision. Our pastry and poetry comes from one of the most iconic poets in the world, I think, in human history. I think so many people have heard of the great Dr. Maya Angelou, and specifically one of her most famous pieces of writing, one of her most famous poems ever. You can probably guess what it is. Still I Rise. This poem definitely speaks to resilience, and so I want to share it with you all here today. And the pastry of the week is inspired by the Three of Swords, Three of Knives card, which had the crepe myrtle tree on it. And so we have crepes as our pastry of the week in honor of the crepe myrtle tree, featured in the Hoodoo Tarot deck. So I'm going to read Maya Angelou's Still I Rise from the Poetry Foundation website. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling. I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. And if you are going to part with us here, your to-go, your takeaway is, I am not defined by my toughest loss. I am not defined by my toughest loss. Thank you again for being here. I hope that this has helped you in some way to refill your spiritual cup, and I hope to see you in another video. Now, for the folks who want the tea on this 1-year anniversary of the weekly refills and the upcoming anniversary of Dr. Sarah's Café channel being launched in April, as we mark this 52nd episode, which means there's been a full year of weekly refills, I want to reconnect to the intention, the original purpose of starting this series. The first is that I just have a really big heart for people who need encouragement, for people who need inspiration, for people who need a comforting voice sometimes, because I have been that person so many times in my life, and I know how much motivational, inspirational, spiritual, uplifting, fulfilling, empowering, truthful, honest, sincere content has greatly helped me in my journeys. And I also started this series as a form of creative expression. Some of the changes is going to allow me to reconnect with those original intentions. And so what I'm doing is focusing less on the weekly forecast. I want to dial down the, astrology of the week ahead vibes or energy and really focus on just a weekly inspirational message, a weekly spiritual motivation message that is informed and inspired by the astrology, tarot, oracle, numerology, poetry, etc. But that is not the core reason people come to my channel. Realizing that I had been, patterning myself after traditional astrology channels, like the ones I love, like Nadia Shah and Chani Nicholas, where they have pure astrology channels. They are professional practicing astrologers, and their channels are like 100% like this is about astrology insights, predictions, forecasts, like weekly weather forecasts and updates. And they really go deep into all the astrology things. One of the things I'm letting go of is the moon videos, the separate moon videos. And we're going to start talking about the moons as part of the weekly refills again. So each week I'm going to just focus on one or two major aspects that speak to or contribute in some way to the overall inspirational message or the overall spiritual message. And this also means that the weekly refills can remain relevant for a long time after the week has passed. And so they're not tied to or tethered to the weekly astrology or the present day astrology. They're more so just pulling in astrology to help illustrate a larger message that applies in a timeless way and that can fill your cup, whether you come back to it or you discover it 5 years from now. And it also remains true to the title of the refills themselves, right? I want you to refill your spiritual cup. And so that's less again about knowing like what are the astrological energies of the week. Instead saying like, what's an important message that could inspire you and encourage you in a spiritual way. And if and when the astrology helps to illustrate that larger message, then I'll describe it and use it as part of a larger message. So we'll still be talking astrology, but less so in a like week to week forecast way, and more so here's a larger spiritual picture that we're painting, and here are some of the ways that it vibrates or aligns with astrology of the moment. And then thinking about creating space in their channel overall for all the other spiritual lifestyle things I want to talk about. So I'm doing a meditation series that I'm trying to release every week. I want to get back into my series on dreams and the power of dreams, dream interpretation. I also want to do interviews with other spiritual practitioners, especially people who create tarot cards and tarot decks and oracle decks. Part of my decision to discontinue the separate moon videos is so that I have time to bring you that whole palette, that full spectrum and scope of spiritual inspiration and exploration beyond just following the astrology week to week, month to month. And then the other change coming to the weekly refills is that I want to do a lot more than just poetry. And so thinking about incorporating other forms of creative art, like visual art, painting, even like dance and choreography clips, anything that truly resonates with the overall spiritual message designed to help you refill your spiritual cup. It doesn't just have to be poetry. So I might rename the pastry and poetry segment, but I might not, because to me, poetry is not just words. I think poetry can be visual. I think poetry can be bodily. I think poetry can be auditory, right? I think your lifestyle can be a poetic lifestyle. So I may or may not rename that segment, but you can expect to see a larger variety of art and creativity that's not just poetry or words per se, but I want to share other forms of art as well. I'm really excited to be reaching these 1-year milestones, and I love this channel. I love the work. I love so dearly each of you who has connected with me over this past year or so, and I want to continue. I want to go forward into year 2 And in order to do that, I have to also make sure it's sustainable for me, emotionally sustainable for me, and then also practically sustainable for me. And I am someone, if you know me from my other work, I very much am a practice what I preach. I walk the walk, and you can't pour from an empty cup, which is why this channel was created, was to help all of us refill our cups so that we have enough nourishment to fulfill our destinies. And so that pertains to me as well. And because this channel is so much about pouring into other people's cups, I have to make sure I have other ways to continue to fill my own as well. The more I can fill mine, the more I can pour into you, right? So I'm going to manage my own expectations of how much content I can actually put out on this channel while I'm doing other things, writing a book, starting a new part-time job, training for a marathon while also trying to fundraise for the marathon, still getting acclimated to living in a new city that I absolutely love and adore, having to create content on other platforms, right? And also living a full life, right? Taking breaks, resting, enjoying meals with friends, and exploring this beautiful city that I live in. And yet also doing the thing I love, which is sharing messages with you, sharing inspiration and insights, and reading tarot and talking about astrology and spiritual practices and meditations and dream work, all things I love. And so budgeting and allocating time for all those things in a way that feels fulfilling, nurturing, aligned, and in flow for me. And I know y'all can appreciate that. I absolutely do. And I want to continue. I absolutely am excited for another year of Dr. Sarah's Café and beyond. And I appreciate you for being on this journey with me. Take care and much love.
I know sometimes life can be tough, and you feel like you just had enough. When you're thinking everything is gone wrong, just remember that I'm here to cheer